All right, Windows 11 on the original Surface Duo. It's a rather involved process, probably not for the faint of heart, not for the uninitiated. That being said, I've had a lot of people ask me, how difficult is this? They say to me, Shane, I've looked at the tutorial and I'm a little bit confused about what I'm looking at. So what I'm going to do here today is we're just going to scroll through the guide here on GitHub, written by Gus. And I'm going to try to just kind of describe to you what you're going to be doing, what you're going to be looking for in this tutorial. Now, I'm not going to be doing it alongside, right? In a perfect world, I would just film myself doing this process. It would take a long time to film that, to do all of that. So instead, I'm just going to kind of talk you through it as best I can. And then I am going to show you in real time the process of updating the drivers, because I believe there is a new driver update that is available, even newer than the one I just talked about a couple days ago. So I will show you that process. Now, it'll kind of give you a little bit of a look into what all this looks like. But before we go any further, I do want to give you a massive disclaimer. I am not responsible for anything that goes wrong in this process. If you brick your Surface Duo by doing this, don't come to me and complain and tell me that something went wrong here. I've done it, okay? I've done exactly what I'm telling you and it works. So if something goes wrong, it's not my fault. I'm sorry that it happened, but just be forewarned. If you brick something, you bricked it. It is what it is. I'm not buying you a new phone. So the first thing you're going to need is to scroll down to where it says files/tools needed, and you're going to want to download each of these. All right, so we're going to go into TWRP image. If you click it, it should just begin downloading. All right, so you're going to go through and download all of these. Parted, Duo Boot, MSC, Custom UEFI, download all of these things. All right, then you're going to need the platform tools from Google. Click on that link, scroll down, and download the appropriate one. After you've downloaded the platform tools, you're going to have to right click on it and then hit extract all, and then go ahead and hit extract, hit next rather. You're going to get another folder that pops up there, and it's going to be inside this. Now, personally, this is just how I do it, and this makes things much simpler to me. If you change this folder's name to ADB, Android Debugging Bridge, I believe is what that stands for, I then put that at the root of my C drive. All right, so if you go to your C drive, you'll see I've got a folder called ADB right there, and you'll see there's a lot more stuff in there because we're going to add to it. But take that, call it ADB, and move it to the root of your C drive. It'll make sense as to why we're doing that as we go on. And then what I would recommend doing is all of these files that you're downloading, TWRP, Parted, DuoBoot, take all of those things that you're downloading and move them into that folder that you've just put in the root of your C drive. And it's going to look kind of like this. If I go to my C drive and I go to ADB, you're going to see TWRP, we're going to see Parted, MSC, all of those things that we're downloading. I have moved them into that drive, and it just makes typing in their locations and so forth that we're gonna have to be doing later, it just makes all that stuff a lot simpler. So once all that stuff is downloaded and in a location, it could be the root of your C drive, it could be anywhere that you just feel comfortable it being there, you know where it is, you know how to get to it, you know how to type in the location that's in, whatever works for you, that just works for me. Once you've done all that, you need to back up your device any way you see fit, whether it's Google Photos for your pictures, whatever, Google Drive, OneDrive, back up your stuff because you're going to lose all of it. Once you have done that, you are going to go to your Surface Duo. You are going to click on the settings cog. You're going to scroll down to about. You're going to scroll down to build number, click build number a bunch of times until it says you are now a developer. Go back, go into system, go into developer options. Scroll down and make sure that USB debugging is turned on. Look for OEM unlocking and tick that box. You're going to get a thing to type in your PIN, which I'm not going to do because I'm not actually going to unlock. This is my Duo 2 you're looking at, so we're not going to do that. But tick the box for OEM unlocking. At that point, we're going to go back to the guide here, and you see where it says ADB reboot bootloader. So we're going to have to type that into a command prompt, but not just a normal command prompt, a command prompt that is utilizing ADB. So how do you do that? Well, it's actually relatively simple, but the first thing you have to do is you have to take your Surface Duo and you're going to have to plug it into your computer with a USB-C cable. Now at that point or somewhere in this process, sometimes it's a little weird when it does it, and it's kind of hard to say, you are likely to get a pop-up that will look like this: allow USB debugging. Tick the box and hit allow. You are now not just plugged into your computer, you're actually connected to the ADB, the Android Debugging Bridge. So then you're going to click on Start and type in CMD and click on Command Prompt. So now we're looking at our command prompt, but we have to do an extra step, and this is where it's going to be really handy if you rename that folder ADB and moved it to the root of your C drive, because we have to change directory. To do that, you're going to type in CD, and if you did move it there, you're going to type in CD C:/ADB and hit enter. We are now in that directory. That is where we are now living. We are now executing commands from inside that directory. Wherever you change, wherever that folder is, you're going to do CD and then that file path. All right, so if it's in your download folder, you're going to have to type all that out. So move it to someplace nice and short and simple. You're going to feel better about it when you do. At that point, you're going to start executing commands. So you're going to type in ADB reboot bootloader. And when you do that with your phone plugged in, your Surface Duo is going to reboot. From there, you're going to be in the bootloader. And then you're going to type in that command, all in your command prompt. Type in that, and it's going to go through the process of actually unlocking your bootloader, and the device is going to fully wipe itself, okay? Nothing's going to be left. It's going to be totally gone. After all that's done, your Duo is going to boot up, and it's going to act like this is the first time you ever started up your Surface Duo. You're going to have to go through your whole setup process again. And once you're done setting it up, you're going to have to repeat the stuff I've already told you. Go back into the About, click on Build Number, turn on Developer Mode, enable USB debugging, and then you should be good to continue from there. Once you've done all that, plug your Duo back in. And I know it doesn't say this. This is where this gets a little bit complicated. This guide kind of assumes that you somewhat like understand the insider baseball on this stuff, and maybe you don't. So you're not just going to plug it back in and run this command. It's not going to do anything. You have to do ADB reboot bootloader again. And then once you're on that screen, fast boot twrp.img. Now, that twrp.img, if that is in the folder where your ADB stuff is, like I told you, you run that just like it is, boom, off you go. So the next bit here, ADB push, and then it says path to parted /SD card /. Again, you should have downloaded parted earlier from up here. There's parted, should have downloaded it. And then you should have put it in that same folder, that ADB folder, the folder you renamed ADB, and you moved it to the root of your C drive. It should be in that folder. So if that is true, what you will type in will be this. You'll type in ADB push. Then, to make this simple, you can go to that folder. You can look for parted. You can right-click it and hit copy as path. Then just simply right-click and it'll paste. So there's your path. And then finish it off with /SD card / and hit enter. That is going to take parted, which is basically a thing that lets you modify partitions, and it's going to shoot it across your cable and onto your Surface Duo. At that point, you're just going to copy this line, paste it in, hit enter, copy this line, paste it in, hit enter, copy this line, paste it in, hit enter, then type in print and hit enter. Once you click on print, you're going to see a list of all of the partitions on your Surface Duo. If you've done all this correctly, you should be looking at a command prompt that looks something like this. It's going to look a little different than this because this is my Surface Duo that's already got Windows installed on it. So I'm going to have more partitions than you are going to have. I believe you should have 6. I have 8. You will have 8 when we are done. But if you're looking at your partitions here, you've done well so far. Let's go back to the guide. And you'll see here, run these commands one by one for the 128 gig device or the 256 gig device, right? So you're going to pick which one you have and you're going to expand it, and then you're going to run these commands. So let's go with the 128 one. RM6 is the first command you are now going to type in at this point. What that's going to do is it is going to delete the last partition, the 6th partition, which I believe is where your user data for Android is. Because guess what? You're erasing your Duo's Android stuff again. You have to set it up again when this is all done. Sorry, I should have mentioned, don't fully set up your device because you're gonna erase it again. At any rate, RM6. The next command is mkpart blah, 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 blah. And as it says here, this command creates the EFI partition for Windows. You're probably going to see a warning that pops up that says not properly aligned, blah, 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 blah. Just click on ignore and go on. Then you're gonna type in this command or paste in this command, type in ignore again, and move on. And then this last command will recreate your Android's data partition again at the end. Type in that command, hit enter, type in quit, and hit enter. So now you're just going to one by one copy a line, paste it in, hit enter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times until you exit at the end of it. Then you're going to push duoboot.tar, which is going to basically allow your device to be in mass storage mode. So you're going to type in adb push space. Then you're going to go back to your folder, your ADB folder. You're going to look for duoboot.tar. You're going to right click it. You're going to hit copy as path. Go back to your command prompt. Paste that in, space, SD card, hit enter. Then again, copy, align, paste it, copy, align, paste it, copy, align, paste it. Just run each of these commands one by one. And now duoboot.tar should be on your device and ready to rock and roll. From there, you can type in adb push. And then again, we're going to go back to our adb folder and look for msc.sh, right click it, copy as path, paste that in here, /SD card, copy, align, paste it, copy, align, paste it. You should now hear doo-doo as your Duo is now plugged into your computer. And if you go to your file browser, you should see theoretically that it is plugged in. Now, this is an area where things get a little bit tricky, a little bit complicated, and where I got a little bit nervous. So we're going to try and walk through this as best we can. Installing Windows. That seems like an important step. So you're now in mass storage mode, you're plugged in, you've done all the other stuff. Now we need to open up disk part. Now it doesn't tell you how to do this. This is information you just kind of assume to have. So what we're going to do is we're once again going to hit our start menu. We're going to type in disk part. This time hit run as administrator. And we have a whole brand new window to deal with, to contend with. So now in disk part, don't get this confused with your ADB, your command prompt. It is different. You're going to type in list disk. And then one of these is going to be your Surface Duo. I cannot tell you which one it's going to be. I do not know what is plugged into your computer. You're just going to have to look at it and figure out which one is your Surface Duo. You're then going to select that disk. So select disk and then the number that is your Surface Duo. List partitions. Now you're going to see the partitions again. Hopefully, you're going to be seeing a disk with 8 partitions, and that's going to be able to tell you, yeah, okay, that's my Surface Duo because I've got 8 on there now. Should be 8. So hopefully that kind of tells you you're on the right track. Now, this next part's the part that I was a little shaky at. So you're going to have to give a letter to 2 of the partitions. So theoretically, you should still have this screen here. You should be able to scroll up until you can see what these partitions were. So you should be able to look at that and determine here which one your 2 new partitions are. So the 2 you created that weren't, so you deleted your Android data partition, you made 2 new partitions, and then you recreated the 3rd one. So theoretically, it should be 6 and 7 that we are currently looking for. So you should be selecting partition 6, and then assigning it letter Y just by sending these commands, and then number 7 selected, and then sending X. This may not be exactly correct for you. You're just going to have to look at this and try and match up the sizes. You're just going to have to kind of figure this out on your own. Theoretically, it should be 6 and then 7. But yeah, be careful here. So assuming you've completed all of that, you're going to see we will need to install our install.wim file now. So this is a whole nother thing we have to do. So let's click on use this guide to go to a whole nother process because you have to actually get our Windows installation now to be able to install it. How crazy is that? So you're going to click on this link here. We have to go get the win64.zip. You're looking for releases, okay? It's either going to be on the far right side or it's going to be on the very bottom, depending on what your browser is doing, mobile mode or not. But assuming it's on the right, click on releases. Scroll down, look for win64.zip. Download that. You should have this zip file. Right-click it, extract all, extract. Should open up that folder. Inside the CLI folder, as it says, you have to open up command prompt. Now, you're supposed to be able to hold shift, right click in that folder and hit open PowerShell. That literally never works ever for me. So we're going to have to do this another way. So we are going to once again open up command prompt. I hope you're keeping this organized, all right? You keep your original command prompt open. It's going to make things easier if you close it. Not the end of the world, but it's just easier if you leave it open. Just have multiple command prompts. Parted, it's fine. They can all live happily together. So we're back in command prompting, and this is our new command prompt window. What we're going to do is we're going to type CDs. We're going to change directory, and this time we are in that CLI folder. Click up here, click on Control-C to copy. Go back over here. This time you actually have to type in the parentheses, parenthesis, paste, parenthesis, Boom. Okay, we are now in the CLI folder. You can then take this command, copy it, and then paste it in, boom, and it should begin downloading this Windows. I'm actually going to stop this because I don't want to download it again. So once you're done, there should be a new folder in that CLI folder that should begin with this 10.0.220022,000, whatever. Find that folder. And then in that command prompt we just opened, you're going to type in this, and then in parentheses, the location of that folder. Just like we got the location of the folder to type in to change directory, do the same thing. Find that folder, double click on it, copy the address, parenthesis, paste that in, and then the rest of the command here. Okay, so that should be your full command. Whatever that folder location is, nicely, happily there in the middle, and click enter. This is now going to build an ISO file. Once that is done, these two processes are going to take a long time. Once that's done though, find that ISO that it created. I think you can right click it and hit mount. And so now you're browsing the ISO, and then you're going to see in that ISO sources and then install.wim. What I did is I took that install.wim and I brought it over to that ADB folder so that it all is there together, and you'll see in my folder install.wim, there it is, and it's rather large. That's what you need. So now back in the original command prompt, the one that's been kind of just living there to the side, you're going to type this in, and this is going to require a little bit of changing, right? Because you have to, it says path to install.wim. Well, you got to put that in. So all of this stuff is fine. That's all fine. Then you're going to have to go to your ADB folder, right click, copy as path. We've done this a million times. That's going to replace that bit there, and then paste in the rest and hit enter. It is then going to install Windows in that partition. In that partition that you labeled X, that's where it's going to go. This will take some time. As it says here, go grab coffee or some tea and chill. Once that's done, you're going to type in this BCD, paste that in, run that. Windows is now installed, but it has no drivers. At that point, same kind of thing. So we're going to type in driver update or .exe -d, path to extracted drivers / definitions, Okay, so when we downloaded those drivers up at the very top of that page earlier, you should have extracted it and then moved the folder over to your ADB folder. I just called it drivers. So they're looking for this epsilon.txt file. So what I do is I just follow this through and I copy as path. Right click, copy as path. So you're gonna have this, paste in that copied as path, that will take care of all this part, -R, and then again, where it says path to extracted drivers, you're gonna go back to this, and you're gonna come to this folder here, the folder that contains definitions and components, copy that, and paste it in with your own parentheses on either side, -P, enter. That one's a little bit complicated because you're grabbing two different paths. It's a little weird, but whatever. Just make sure all that reads correctly. That's going to throw your drivers over there. Once that's done, run these two lines separately. This section here is optional. Run them if you want. They're just line by line, copy and paste them in. From that point, you can run ADB reboot. That will reboot into Android. You can go through your setup process. And then from then on, all you have to do is type in, plug it into the computer, type in ADB reboot bootloader, just like the first thing we did. And then once that's in the bootloader, type in fastboot boot UEFI.img, and you will boot into Windows. Now, the first time that it happens, it may do some weird stuff and then reboot back into Android. Then you got to do that again to go back into Windows again. It may do some weird stuff in there, but eventually you will wind up in Windows. So there you go. That's kind of the whole process, but I did mention that I need to do a driver update. So I'm going to just show you this process too, I guess. So let's go back to this guide. Let's scroll up to the very tippy top here, and let's look for Surface Duo drivers. Let's click on that. We're going to scroll down just like you probably just did if you follow these instructions. I'm going to scroll down until I see the most recent driver update, and it says yesterday. So we're going to click on that, let that download. I'm going to bring this over. We're going to extract all, except we're going to make it be in a folder called drivers. Let's extract it. This will take a moment. And that moment is gone. Let's go into this folder. Okay, definitions. I'm going to change this to be called drivers. I'm going to go in and find the drivers folder. I put in my ADB folder. I'm going to delete it so that I don't get anything confused. I'm going to grab this folder and I'm going to drag it into my ADB folder. So now my drivers are where they need to be. And now I need to have my Surface Duo be in mass storage mode. So you remember in the middle of that, how we got into that process. I have to basically duplicate that. But luckily for me, I don't have to duplicate it exactly the same. So what I've done here is I've created a series of shortcuts. And if you look at one that says MSC and you click on properties, you'll see the target here. Essentially, when this is double clicked on, it's going to run these series of commands. It will open up command prompt. It will change directory to my ADB folder, and it will begin running these commands. When it says and, that gives it another line. When it says timeout 15, that's a 15-second pause, and it's just going to run through these commands. And the end result of all of these commands being run is that I should wind up in that mass storage mode, where I can then just simply run the command to push the driver update, and I'm done. So this is untested, but hopefully what you're about to see here is when I double click on this, hopefully you're going to see it running through this process automatically. I'm trying to move my command prompt here so you can see it. It's counting down and waiting until there's enough time to send each command. Like I said, I've not actually tested this setup before, but hopefully it just does its thing and sends each of these commands until we are all the way to the mass storage mode, and then I can simply run the next command to do the driver update. And if we look at my file browser here, suddenly local disk X is there, and you should remember from the tutorial as we've gone through that that is what we actually needed it to do. So now what we have to do is go back to my shortcuts, and let's run ADB1 as administrator. And this is just simply going to open up ADB with the change directory correctly done. Now, at this point, we would normally be grabbing this command here, the driver updater command and all this stuff. But what I've done is, since I always put everything exactly in the exact spot that it was before, I've got this command already copied and saved, so I don't have to go through the process of finding the directories of all this stuff. I can just go back here and paste it in, and it's going to start doing my driver update for me now. So you can see that it is doing that process as we speak, and this will take a moment, but we will let it go. Okay, all that is done. So we're going to do ADB reboot. I could have just done reboot bootloader, but I wasn't thinking about it. So now we got to boot back into Android before I can boot back into Windows 11. Oops, my bad. Okay, there's Android coming up. Now we're going to run my command. This one, when I double click it, will reboot into the bootloader, and then we'll send the UEFI to boot into Windows 11. So let's run it. You should see that Duo has turned off. It is rebooting into the bootloader as we speak. And as I am counting down, I think it'll get to about 3 seconds before it's actually, there we go. So I can actually reduce my timeout a little bit, but whatever, 15 seconds still works fine. We're now sending the boot, which should bring us into Windows 11. I should mention that anytime you do boot in, you're going to get your bootloader screen. The power button will actually select Windows there. And after doing that driver update, you should get a screen like that. You ignore the weirdness going on over here. It is what it is, but you kind of get that getting devices ready thing happening, and eventually you will wind up here at your lock screen, which for some reason we're on duplicate instead of extend. So let's go into our display settings here real quick and see if we can go back to extend. So we'll have two fully functional separate screens. Duplicate, extend these displays, please. Keep changes. And we just got a device installation now complete. So there you go. There is the driver update process there for Windows 11 on Surface Duo. Every time I look at that, by the way, it just breaks my brain a little bit. So guys, hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully you did not just break your phone. If you did, there are some methods for recovery, but they're a little bit weird, a little bit complicated, but it is possible, but hopefully it didn't come to that. Long video. Hope it was useful. Thanks for watching. If you watched all of it, an extra special big thanks to you. Stay tuned for more, guys, and until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.